Welcome to tonight's documentary. Wishing you an engaging and enjoyable evening, followed by a restful and refreshing night. Part 1. The foundations of the forest as the first gentle rays of dawn pierce through the misty canopy of an ancient forest. We begin our tranquil exploration into one of nature's most beautiful phenomena. The morning air is soft and cool, carrying the sweet fragrance of dew-laden leaves and the distant melody of awakening birds. Here, in this peaceful sanctuary, we discover the profound truth that no living creature exists in isolation. Symbiosis, from the Greek words meaning living together, represents the intimate, long-term relationships that bind different species in nature's grand tapestry. These partnerships, woven through millions of years of evolution, create connections so intricate and essential that life as we know it could not exist without them. Like threads in an ancient tapestry, each relationship adds strength and beauty to the whole. The concept is both simple and profound. Imagine, if you will, walking through this serene forest at dawn. The gentle rustling of leaves overhead tells stories of countless partnerships. The very ground beneath your feet teems with invisible alliances. The air you breathe carries the products of ancient collaborations. Every step reveals new examples of species that have learned not just to coexist, but to thrive together. Scientists have identified 3 primary forms of these living partnerships, each as elegant as it is essential. In mutualism, both partners benefit from their relationship, like dancers moving in perfect harmony, each step enhancing the other's grace. Commensalism presents a gentler arrangement, where one partner benefits while the other remains largely unaffected, like a bird finding shelter in a tree that continues its growth undisturbed. Parasitism, though perhaps less appealing to our sensibilities, represents nature's pragmatic approach, where one organism benefits at the expense of another. Yet even this relationship often reaches a delicate balance over time. Mutualism stands as perhaps the most inspiring of these partnerships. Here, we find organisms that have evolved to interact physically and metabolically in mutually beneficial ways, creating ecological innovations that neither could achieve alone. These relationships form the very foundation of life's complexity, from the microscopic powerhouses within our own cells to the vast coral cities beneath tropical seas. Consider the remarkable story written within each cell of your body. Billions of years ago, in the primordial soup of early Earth, a momentous partnership was forged. Ancient bacteria, masters of converting oxygen into energy, found refuge within larger cells. Over countless generations, these bacterial partners became so integrated with their hosts that they transformed into mitochondria, the powerhouses that fuel every breath you take, every heartbeat, every thought. This ancient mutualism literally powers your existence, a reminder that cooperation lies at the very heart of life itself. The morning light grows stronger now, illuminating droplets of dew that hang like jewels from spider webs. Each web represents another form of relationship, though in this case, the spider waits patiently for visitors who will provide nourishment. Yet even here, balance exists, as the spider helps control insect populations that might otherwise overwhelm the forest's delicate ecosystem. Commensalism offers us gentler stories of coexistence. Picture an orchid growing high in the branches of an oak tree, its roots never penetrating the bark, never drawing nutrients from its host. The orchid seeks only elevation, a chance to reach toward the light and catch the moisture of passing clouds. The oak tree, ancient and steadfast, provides this platform unconsciously, neither helped nor harmed by its beautiful passenger. This relationship embodies a quiet generosity found throughout nature, where resources are shared without cost or conflict. The forest around us pulses with these gentle partnerships. Ferns unfurl their fronds on fallen logs, gaining a foothold for growth, while the log continues its slow return to the earth. Mosses carpet the north sides of trees, finding the consistent moisture they need, while their host trees remain untroubled by their presence. These are nature's examples of living lightly, of taking what is needed without causing harm. Even parasitism, when viewed through the lens of evolutionary time, reveals a different face than we might expect. The most successful parasites are those that have learned restraint, that have evolved to take what they need without destroying their hosts. Like a master artist working with delicate materials, evolution has taught many parasites to maintain the health of their partners, for in their hosts' continued well-being lies their own survival. The intestinal bacteria that inhabit every healthy human being illustrate how the boundaries between these categories can blur beautifully. These microscopic partners aid our digestion, synthesize essential vitamins, and protect us from harmful invaders. In return, we provide them with a warm, nutrient-rich environment and safe passage to new hosts. What began perhaps as parasitism has evolved into mutualism so complete that we cannot survive without our bacterial partners, nor they without us. As the morning progresses and the forest awakens fully, the symphony of symbiotic relationships grows richer. The very soil beneath our feet represents a vast underground network of partnerships. Fungal threads, finer than silk, connect tree roots across vast distances, allowing forests to share nutrients and information. A mother tree, sensing her offspring's struggle in a shaded hollow, can send them sustenance through these fungal networks. Seedlings, too small to photosynthesize effectively in the deep shade, receive care from their elders until they can reach toward patches of sunlight. These mycorrhizal networks, as scientists call them, demonstrate cooperation on a scale that rivals our most advanced communication systems. The fungi serve as living internet cables, connecting plant communities across miles of forest floor. In exchange for their services, the fungi receive precious sugars manufactured by the plants through photosynthesis. Neither could thrive alone in the complex ecosystem of the forest floor, but together they create communities of astounding resilience and beauty. The morning chorus of birds provides another layer to our understanding of nature's partnerships. Many of these songs represent not just communication between members of the same species, but complex negotiations with the broader forest community. Some birds serve as the forest's early warning system, their calls alerting other species to the presence of predators. In return, they benefit from the increased vigilance of the community, as other eyes and ears help watch for dangers that might threaten them all. Mixed species flocks illustrate this cooperative spirit beautifully. Different bird species, each with its own feeding preferences and anti-predator strategies, travel together through the forest. The sharp-eyed sentinel species spot dangers and sound alarms. The ground-feeding species flush insects that the aerial hunters can catch. The bark-leaning species expose hidden insects that others can share. Each bird gains the benefits of the group's collective awareness, while contributing its own unique skills to the community's survival. The intricate relationships extend even to the plants that seem to stand motionless in their wooden silence. Trees of different species often form partnerships that span decades or even centuries. Deep-rooted species can access water and nutrients far below the surface, sharing these resources with shallow-rooted neighbors through root grafts and fungal connections. In return, the shallow-rooted plants may offer protection from surface erosion or provide chemical compounds that deter harmful insects. These plant communities demonstrate a form of botanical wisdom developed over millions of years. Competition certainly exists, as each plant strives to capture sunlight and nutrients, but cooperation often proves more successful than conflict. Plants that work together can modify their local environment, in ways that benefit all members of their community. They can alter soil chemistry, moderate temperature and humidity, and create microclimates that allow a greater diversity of species to flourish. The gentle breeze carries the fragrance of countless flowers, each one advertising its willingness to enter into partnership with pollinators. This ancient contract between plant and animal has shaped much of the beauty we see in nature. Flowers offer nectar, a high-energy reward, to creatures willing to carry pollen between blossoms. The relationship has driven evolution towards stunning diversity and complexity, as plants and their pollinators have co-evolved in an endless dance of adaptation and refinement. Some of these partnerships have become so specific that neither partner can survive without the other. Certain fig trees, for example, can be pollinated only by specific fig wasps, while these wasps can develop only within the figs of their partner trees. Such obligate mutualisms represent millions of years of coevolution, as two species have shaped each other's development so completely that they have become, in essence, components of a single biological system. The morning light now filters through the canopy in golden shafts, illuminating countless examples of nature's collaborative spirit. Vines spiral up tree trunks, gaining access to sunlight without the enormous investment of energy required to build a massive trunk. The trees, for their part, often benefit from their vine partners, which can provide additional photosynthetic capacity and help protect the trunk from temperature extremes and physical damage. Epiphytes, the air plants that festoon tropical trees, create entire aerial gardens without touching the ground. These plants, including orchids, ferns, and bromeliads, have mastered the art of living lightly upon their hosts. They gather moisture from the air and rain, collect nutrients from dust and organic debris, and anchor themselves to bark and branches without penetrating the tree's living tissues. Their hosts continue their growth unimpeded, while the epiphytes gain access to light and space that would be impossible to reach from the forest floor. The relationships between these aerial gardens and the larger forest community extend far beyond simple commensalism. The water collected by bromeliads creates tiny ecosystems in the sky, providing breeding grounds for frogs, insects, and other small creatures. These aerial pools become stepping stones for species that might otherwise be trapped at ground level, allowing genetic exchange and colonization of new territories. The diversity of life in the forest canopy often exceeds that found at ground level, much of it made possible by the platforms provided by epiphytic communities. As we stand quietly in this forest sanctuary, the complexity and beauty of symbiotic relationships become ever more apparent. Every surface, from the smallest leaf to the largest trunk, hosts communities of organisms living in various forms of partnership. The bark of trees provides substrate for lichens, those remarkable partnerships between fungi and algae that can survive in conditions too harsh for either partner alone. These living crusts can extract nutrients from bare rock, beginning the slow process of soil formation that will eventually allow larger plants to take hold. The lichens themselves tell stories of partnership that span geological time. The fungal partner provides structure and protection, creating a framework that can withstand extremes of temperature, drought, and radiation. The algal or bacterial partner captures sunlight and carbon dioxide, manufacturing the sugars that feed the partnership. Together, they can colonize environments that would quickly kill either partner alone, from Arctic tundra to desert rocks to the harsh surfaces of city buildings. The forest floor beneath our feet reveals another world of partnerships. Fallen logs become nurseries for new trees, providing elevated platforms that lift seedlings above the competition for light and space. As the logs slowly decompose, they release nutrients that feed the growing plants, creating nurse log communities that can persist for decades. The relationship benefits both partners. The seedlings gain a head start in life, while their roots help stabilize the decomposing log and extend its useful life. Decomposition itself represents a vast network of cooperative relationships. Bacteria, fungi, insects, and other decomposers work together to break down organic matter, each group specializing in different aspects of the process. Some species soften tough materials like wood and leaves, making them accessible to other decomposers. Others excel at breaking down specific compounds like cellulose or lignin. Still others specialize in the final stages of decomposition, converting complex organic molecules into simple nutrients that plants can absorb. This cooperative approach to decomposition ensures that nutrients continue to cycle through the ecosystem efficiently. Without these partnerships, dead organic matter would accumulate faster than it could be processed, eventually overwhelming the forest with waste. Instead, the collaborative efforts of decomposer communities ensure that death becomes new life, that every fallen leaf and every deceased creature contributes to the ongoing vitality of the forest. The morning mist begins to lift, revealing the forest in all its interconnected glory. Water itself serves as a medium for countless partnerships, as it cycles from soil to roots to leaves to atmosphere and back again. Plants contribute to the water cycle by releasing moisture through their leaves, creating the humidity that benefits the entire forest community. This transpired water often falls as rain elsewhere in the forest, creating a self-maintaining system where the forest literally waters itself through the collective action of its plant members. The hydrological partnerships extend to the microscopic level, where soil organisms help create the complex structure that allows water to infiltrate slowly and deeply, rather than running off the surface. Fungal threads bind soil particles together, creating stable aggregates with spaces that can hold water and air. Plant roots create channels that allow water to penetrate deeply, while their secretions feed soil organisms that further improve soil structure. These soil partnerships represent some of nature's most essential but least visible collaborations. The health of every forest, grassland, and agricultural system depends on the complex communities of organisms that live in the soil. Bacteria fix nitrogen from the atmosphere, making this essential nutrient available to plants. Fungi break down organic matter and transport nutrients across distances that root systems alone could never span. Earthworms and other soil animals mix and aerate the soil, creating conditions that benefit all soil life. The partnerships that exist in soil are so complex and interdependent that scientists are only beginning to understand them fully. Recent research has revealed that plants can actually communicate with their soil partners, releasing specific chemical signals that attract beneficial organisms and repel harmful ones. The plants can even adjust their root secretions based on their current needs, essentially farming the soil community to optimize conditions for their own growth. As the sun climbs higher and the morning grows warmer, we begin to see the daily rhythms that govern many symbiotic relationships. Some partnerships are active only at certain times of day, as partners synchronize their activities to maximize mutual benefit. Night-blooming flowers open their petals to attract nocturnal pollinators, while day-blooming species close their flowers and wait for dawn. This temporal partitioning allows multiple species to share the same pollinators without competing directly, creating more opportunities for successful partnerships. The forest's daily rhythm creates a succession of partnership opportunities. Dawn brings the early shift of pollinators, including many beetles and flies that prefer cooler temperatures. Mid-morning sees the arrival of bees and butterflies, drawn by flowers that open as temperatures rise. Late afternoon brings different pollinators, including many hover flies and late foraging bees. Evening ushers in the night shift of moths, beetles, and bats, each group adapted to flowers that bloom and produce scent at their preferred times. This temporal specialization extends beyond pollination to many other aspects of symbiotic relationships. Cleaning mutualisms between fish species often follow daily schedules, with cleaner fish establishing stations where clients know to find them at specific times. The cleaners benefit from predictable access to food, while clients can plan their visits around their other daily activities. Even the microscopic partnerships between plants and their root symbionts follow daily rhythms, with nutrient exchange peaking at times when plants have the most photosynthetic products to share. The forest demonstrates that successful partnerships require not just compatible needs and abilities, but also synchronized timing. Partners must be active when their services are most needed and most beneficial. This synchronization often extends to life cycles as well, with many mutualistic partners timing their reproduction, migration, and other major life events to coincide with their partners' schedules. The forest's response to the changing seasons demonstrates how partnerships adapt and evolve with changing conditions. As autumn approaches and the days grow shorter, the deciduous trees begin their preparation for winter dormancy. The green chlorophyll in their leaves breaks down, revealing the yellow and red pigments that create autumn's spectacular display. But this apparent dying is actually a complex process of resource conservation and partnership maintenance. Before the leaves fall, the trees withdraw valuable nutrients from their leaf tissues and transport them to their roots and woody tissues for winter storage. Much of this recovered nutrition flows directly to the fungal partners that will help sustain the trees through the months when photosynthesis is impossible. The trees are essentially making advance payments to their underground allies, ensuring that the partnerships will remain strong and ready to support rapid spring growth when conditions improve. The fallen leaves themselves become gifts to the broader forest community, providing raw materials for the decomposer partnerships that will process this organic matter throughout the winter months. Even in the depths of winter, when the forest appears dormant, the underground economy continues its vital work. Soil organisms slow their activities, but do not stop entirely, processing leaf litter and maintaining the nutrient cycles that will support the spring awakening. Winter partnerships in temperate forests reveal remarkable strategies for survival and mutual support. Many plants form winter associations with animals that help them survive the harsh months when growth is impossible. Evergreen trees provide crucial shelter for birds and mammals, creating microclimates around their trunks and under their branches where temperatures remain more stable and wind protection is available. In return, these winter residents provide the trees with valuable services. Birds distribute seeds through their droppings, often carrying them to favorable growing sites far from parent trees. Small mammals create networks of trails and burrows that improve soil aeration and water infiltration around tree roots. Their waste products provide slow-release fertilizer that becomes available when spring growth resumes. The forest's winter partnerships extend to relationships between plants of different sizes and growth forms. Shrubs growing beneath evergreen trees benefit from the protection provided by the tree canopy, while their own presence helps insulate tree roots from freezing temperatures. Herbaceous plants that die back to underground storage organs receive protection from fallen logs and accumulated leaf litter, while their decomposing above-ground parts contribute to the nutrient pool that sustains the entire forest community. Even the relationships between plants and their pathogens demonstrate elements of cooperation and balance. While disease organisms certainly harm individual plants, they also serve important ecological functions by removing weak and stressed individuals from plant populations, creating opportunities for healthier plants to expand their territories. The constant evolutionary pressure from pathogens drives plants to develop stronger immune systems and more effective chemical defenses, ultimately benefiting the entire plant community. Forest fires, when they occur naturally, create opportunities for partnerships that might not otherwise develop. Fire-adapted plant communities often include species that have evolved complementary responses to burning. Some plants resprout quickly from underground organs, stabilizing soil and preventing erosion. Others germinate only after fires clear competing vegetation, timing their emergence to take advantage of the increased light and reduced competition that follows burning. These fire recovery partnerships often involve intricate timing and resource sharing. Fast-growing pioneer species quickly establish root systems that help prevent soil erosion while beginning to rebuild soil organic matter through leaf fall and root turnover. Slower-growing but longer-lived species establish themselves gradually among the pioneers, eventually forming the canopy that will define the mature forest community. Nitrogen-fixing plants often play crucial roles in post-fire recovery, forming partnerships with soil bacteria that allow them to thrive in the nutrient-poor conditions that typically follow intense fires. These plants serve as biological fertilizer factories, gradually enriching the soil and creating conditions that support the establishment of non-nitrogen-fixing species. The pioneer plants essentially subsidize the recovery of the broader plant community through their bacterial partnerships. The forest's relationship with water demonstrates another level of cooperative interaction that extends far beyond individual plant-animal partnerships. Trees and other forest plants participate in regional and even continental-scale water cycles, transpiring moisture that falls as precipitation in distant locations. A single large tree can transpire hundreds of gallons of water on a hot summer day, contributing to the atmospheric moisture that sustains rainfall patterns across vast geographic areas. This participation in hydrological cycles creates partnerships between forests and distant ecosystems that depend on forest-generated precipitation. Agricultural regions downwind of major forests often receive significant portions of their rainfall from forest transpiration, creating economic relationships where forest conservation in one region directly benefits crop production in another. These connections demonstrate how local partnerships can have global implications, linking ecosystems across continents through atmospheric processes. Forest partnerships also operate across temporal scales that extend far beyond the lifespans of individual organisms. Old-growth forests represent partnership networks that have been developing for centuries, with some relationships persisting through multiple generations of trees. The continuity of these ancient partnerships creates conditions that support species and ecological processes that cannot exist in younger forests. The legacy effects of these long-term partnerships can be seen in the soil profiles of old-growth forests, where centuries of fungal activity have created distinct layers, enriched with organic matter and specialized microbial communities. The root channels created by long-dead trees continue to influence water movement and nutrient distribution decades after the trees themselves have decomposed, demonstrating how partnerships can persist long after their original participants have passed away. Ancient nurse logs in old-growth forests provide platforms for new tree growth while slowly decomposing over periods that can span centuries. The relationships between these logs and the trees that grow upon them represent multi-generational partnerships where the death of one generation provides the foundation for the success of the next. The nutrients released by the decomposing log feed the growing trees, while the tree's roots help stabilize the log and extend its useful life as a nursery platform. The forest's partnerships with human communities represent another dimension of cooperative relationships. though these are often more complex and sometimes more problematic than relationships between non-human species. Indigenous peoples around the world developed forest management practices based on understanding and working with natural partnership networks, rather than attempting to dominate or replace them. Traditional agroforestry systems demonstrate how human activities can enhance, rather than disrupt, forest partnerships. By selectively harvesting forest products while maintaining canopy cover and soil health, these systems support both human needs and the continuation of natural partnership networks. The integration of agricultural crops with forest trees creates new opportunities for beneficial relationships, while preserving the essential partnerships that maintain ecosystem stability. Modern forest conservation efforts increasingly recognize the importance of maintaining partnership networks, rather than focusing solely on individual species protection. Ecosystem-based management approaches attempt to preserve the complex relationships that sustain forest communities, understanding that the health of individual species depends on the health of their partnership networks. The economic value of forest partnerships extends far beyond the obvious products like timber and paper. Forest ecosystems provide essential services through their partnership networks: water purification, climate regulation, carbon storage, and the maintenance of genetic diversity that supports agricultural crops and medical discoveries. These ecosystem services, worth trillions of dollars globally, depend entirely on the continued functioning of natural partnership networks. Research into forest partnerships continues to reveal new levels of complexity and interconnection. Recent discoveries about plant communication through fungal networks have revolutionized our understanding of forest intelligence and cooperation. Trees can share information about drought stress, insect attacks, and other environmental challenges, allowing forest communities to respond collectively to threats and opportunities. The chemical complexity of these communication networks rivals that of human technology, with hundreds of different compounds carrying specific information between forest partners. Plants can distinguish between signals from relatives and strangers, between warnings of different types of threats, and between requests for different types of assistance. This chemical internet operates continuously throughout the forest, coordinating responses and maintaining the stability of partnership networks. Climate change is creating new challenges for forest partnerships, forcing rapid adaptations in relationships that evolved over much longer timescales. Some partnerships are proving remarkably resilient, with partners adjusting their activities and behaviors to maintain beneficial relationships under changing conditions. Others are being disrupted by temperature changes, altered precipitation patterns, and shifts in seasonal timing that affect the coordination between partners. The forest's response to these challenges demonstrates both the resilience and the vulnerability of partnership networks. Some relationships are flexible enough to adapt to new conditions, while others may be lost if environmental changes exceed the partner's ability to adjust. The preservation of forest partnerships in a changing world requires understanding these relationships well enough to support their continued function, even as environmental conditions shift. As the morning in our forest sanctuary draws to a close, and we prepare to explore other ecosystems and their partnerships, we carry with us a deep appreciation for the complexity, beauty, and fundamental importance of cooperative relationships in sustaining life on Earth. The forest has shown us that cooperation is not just a strategy for survival, but the very foundation upon which life's complexity and beauty are built. The gentle sounds of the forest continue around us. The rustle of leaves in the breeze, the distant calls of birds, the soft sounds of water moving through soil and plant tissues. Each sound represents countless partnerships at work, maintaining the delicate balance that sustains this green world. The forest breathes through the collective action of billions of partners, each contributing to the whole while receiving the support they need to flourish. In the dappled sunlight that filters through the canopy, we see the physical manifestation of partnerships that span from the soil to the sky, from the microscopic to the massive, from the immediate to the eternal. Every ray of light that reaches the forest floor has been filtered through partnerships between leaves and their resident organisms. Every molecule of oxygen we breathe has been produced through partnerships between plants and their cellular symbionts. Every nutrient that sustains forest life has been processed through partnerships between decomposers and their microbial allies. The forest stands as a living cathedral of cooperation, its pillars and arches formed by partnerships that have been refined over millions of years. In its quiet beauty, we find not just aesthetic pleasure but profound wisdom about the nature of life itself. The forest teaches us that independence is an illusion, that strength comes through cooperation, and that the most beautiful and enduring achievements arise from the patient work of countless partners working together toward common goals. As we prepare to leave this peaceful grove and explore the partnerships that thrive in other environments, we understand that we carry the forest with us. In our bodies, in our breath, in our very cells, we are connected to the forest through partnerships that span species, ecosystems, and continents. We are not separate observers of nature, but integral participants in the grand experiment of cooperation that has been unfolding on Earth for billions of years. Part 2. Under the waves and above the earth, as the morning sun climbs higher in the azure sky, we leave behind the gentle embrace of the forest and venture toward the crystal-clear waters of a tropical sea. Here, beneath the surface of warm, sun-dappled waves, lies one of Earth's most spectacular displays of cooperative living. The coral reef awaits us, an underwater city built entirely on the foundation of ancient partnerships, where every surface tells a story of collaboration, and every creature participates in the grand symphony of mutual support. The transition from air to water is like stepping through a doorway into another world. The harsh angles and solid boundaries of the terrestrial world dissolve into flowing curves and gentle undulations. Light behaves differently here, filtering through the water in shafts of gold and turquoise that dance and shimmer with each passing wave. The sounds of the surface world fade away, replaced by the subtle symphony of the reef, the gentle clicking of shrimp, the soft whisper of water moving through coral branches, and the distant calls of fish communicating in frequencies that resonate through the water like underwater songs. At the heart of this aquatic paradise stands the coral itself, one of nature's most remarkable examples of mutualistic partnership. Each coral colony represents millions of individual polyps, tiny animals no larger than a pencil eraser, yet together they create structures that can be seen from space. These small creatures belong to the same family as jellyfish and sea anemones, equipped with stinging tentacles that they use to capture minute prey from the passing current. But their hunting prowess alone could never account for their incredible success in building the vast limestone cities that we call coral reefs. The secret to their prosperity lies in the microscopic partners that live within their tissues. Zooxanthellae, single-celled algae smaller than the period at the end of this sentence, have taken up residence inside the coral polyps in numbers that boggle the mind. A single coral polyp may house millions of these algal partners, creating a density of life that rivals the most crowded cities on Earth. Yet this crowding is not chaotic but beautifully organized, with each algal cell positioned where it can receive the sunlight it needs while contributing to the welfare of its host. These algal partners are master chemists, capable of capturing sunlight and carbon dioxide from the water to manufacture sugars through the process of photosynthesis. In the warm, clear waters of tropical seas, where sunlight penetrates deep below the surface, These microscopic factories work around the clock, producing far more food than they need for their own survival. The excess sugars, along with other organic compounds, are shared with their coral hosts, providing up to 90% of the nutrition that the coral polyps require. This partnership transforms the coral from a simple predator into something far more sophisticated, a living solar collector that can thrive in the nutrient-poor waters of tropical seas. The clear blue waters that make coral reefs so beautiful to human eyes are actually marine deserts, so low in nutrients that most marine life cannot survive in them. Yet the coral's partnership with photosynthetic algae allows it to flourish in these conditions, creating oases of life in the underwater equivalent of a desert. The benefits flow in both directions, as all successful partnerships require. The coral polyps provide their algal partners with a safe, stable home, protected from the currents and predators that make life in the open ocean so challenging. The coral's tissues are rich in carbon dioxide, a waste product of animal metabolism that the algae eagerly consume for photosynthesis. The polyps also provide their partners with essential nutrients like nitrogen and phosphorus, which they extract from the small prey they capture with their tentacles. This exchange creates a closed-loop system of remarkable efficiency. The algae consume the coral's waste products and transform them into food. The coral consumes the algae's excess production and transforms it into energy for growth and reproduction. Nothing is wasted in this partnership, and the result is a biological system that can build massive structures in some of the most nutrient-poor environments on Earth. The visual beauty of coral reefs reflects this underlying partnership in ways that are both subtle and spectacular. The vibrant colors that make coral reefs so breathtaking are largely the result of the algae living within the coral tissues. Different species of zooxanthellae contain different combinations of photosynthetic pigments, creating the stunning palette of colors that ranges from brilliant reds and oranges to deep purples and electric blues. When coral polyps are healthy and their algal partners are thriving, the reefs glow with an intensity and variety of color that rivals the most magnificent garden. The three-dimensional architecture of coral reefs creates countless niches and microhabitats that support an incredible diversity of other life forms. The coral colonies themselves take on an amazing variety of shapes, from massive boulder corals that form the reef's foundation to delicate branching species that create underwater forests. Table corals spread their flattened surfaces to capture maximum sunlight for their algal partners, while brain corals form convoluted surfaces that increase their surface area for both photosynthesis and feeding. This architectural diversity is not accidental, but represents millions of years of evolutionary refinement. Each coral species has evolved a growth form that maximizes the benefits of its partnership with zooxanthellae while adapting to the specific conditions of its reef environment. Corals in shallow water, where light is abundant, often form massive, robust structures that can withstand the force of breaking waves. Corals in deeper water, where light is more limited, often develop more delicate branching forms that maximize their surface area for capturing the available sunlight. The reef ecosystem that grows up around these coral partnerships is a testament to the creative power of cooperation. The complex structure of the coral provides shelter for countless other species, creating a three-dimensional habitat that supports more biodiversity per square meter than almost any other ecosystem on Earth. Fish of every imaginable size, shape, and color make their homes among the coral branches. Invertebrates from tiny shrimp to massive clams find niches in the reef's countless crevices and caves. Many of these reef inhabitants have formed their own partnerships with the coral or with each other, creating nested networks of cooperation that extend throughout the ecosystem. The relationship between clownfish and sea anemones represents one of the most famous examples of marine mutualism. The bright orange clownfish, made famous by animated movies, live their entire lives among the stinging tentacles of sea anemones, immune to the toxins that would quickly kill other fish of similar size. This partnership benefits both species in multiple ways. The clownfish receive protection from predators that dare not venture among the anemone's deadly tentacles. They also feed on the anemone's leftover prey and the mucus that the anemone produces, gaining nutrition while helping to keep their host clean. In return, the clownfish defend their anemone from predators and parasites, chase away fish that might damage the anemone's tentacles, and even bring food to their host by depositing feces near the anemone's base, providing valuable nutrients in the nutrient-poor reef environment. The partnership extends to reproduction as well, with the clownfish helping to circulate water around the anemone's eggs, providing them with fresh oxygen and preventing the growth of harmful bacteria. The anemone, in turn, provides a safe nursery for the clownfish's own eggs, which are laid on rocks near the base of the anemone where they are protected by their host's stinging tentacles. Throughout the reef, cleaning stations represent another form of mutualistic partnership that benefits entire communities. Small cleaner wrasse, no bigger than a human finger, establish territories where larger fish come to receive spa services. The cleaners remove parasites, dead skin, and infected tissue from their clients, gaining nutrition while providing a valuable health service. The relationship is so well established that the cleaners have evolved bright colors and distinctive swimming patterns that advertise their services, while their clients have learned to recognize these signals and seek out cleaning stations when they need attention. The trust involved in these cleaning relationships is remarkable to observe. Massive groupers, capable of swallowing the tiny cleaner fish in a single gulp, will hover motionless while the cleaners work, even opening their mouths and gill covers to allow access to their most sensitive areas. Predatory fish that would normally hunt smaller fish become passive clients, recognizing that the services provided by the cleaners are more valuable than a quick meal. Some cleaning relationships have become so specialized that the partners cannot survive without each other. Certain cleaner shrimp species live exclusively in association with particular species of moray eels, setting up shop in the eels' dens and advertising their services with bright colors and waving antennae. The eels, despite being fearsome predators, allow the shrimp to crawl into their mouths and over their gills, providing access to parasites and debris that the eels cannot remove themselves. The reef's daily rhythms reveal the temporal dimension of many partnerships. As the sun rises and begins to illuminate the reef, the coral polyps and their algal partners begin their daily cycle of cooperation. The algae, energized by the growing light, begin producing sugars through photosynthesis. The coral polyps, which extended their tentacles during the night to capture zooplankton, gradually retract them as their algal partners take over the primary responsibility for nutrition. This daily shift from animal feeding to plant production is synchronized throughout the reef, creating predictable patterns that other species have learned to exploit. Many fish time their feeding activities to coincide with the coral's daily rhythms, knowing when the polyps are most likely to extend their tentacles and when they are most focused on photosynthesis. The reef's nighttime transformation reveals an entirely different set of partnerships and relationships. As darkness falls, many corals extend their polyps to feed, creating a forest of waving tentacles that capture zooplankton from the water column. Nocturnal predators emerge from their daytime hiding places, while many daytime active fish seek shelter among the coral branches. Night shift cleaners, including certain species of shrimp and small fish, begin their work, providing services to nocturnal clients that are unavailable during the day. Spawning events on coral reefs, often involve mass synchronization that demonstrates cooperation on an ecosystem-wide scale. Many coral species reproduce by releasing eggs and sperm into the water column, timing their spawning to coincide with specific moon phases, tidal conditions, and seasonal cycles. This synchronized reproduction increases the chances of successful fertilization, while overwhelming predators that might otherwise consume most of the reproductive output. The partnership between corals and their algae faces its greatest test during these reproductive events. The energy demands of producing eggs and sperm are enormous, requiring the coral to rely heavily on the food provided by their algal partners. In healthy reefs, the algae respond to these demands by increasing their photosynthetic activity, providing the extra nutrition needed for successful reproduction. Environmental stress can disrupt these ancient partnerships, leading to coral bleaching events that reveal the delicate nature of the coral-algae relationship. When water temperatures rise above normal levels, or when other stresses affect the reef, the coral polyps may expel their algal partners, causing the coral to lose its color and appear white or bleached. This is not a rejection of the partnership, but a stress response that may help both partners survive difficult conditions. Bleached corals are not immediately dead, but they are in a state of crisis, surviving on their stored energy reserves while hoping that conditions will improve enough for them to re-establish their partnerships with zooxanthellae. In many cases, if stressful conditions subside quickly enough, the algae can recolonize the coral tissues and the partnership can be restored. This remarkable resilience demonstrates the fundamental importance of the coral-algae relationship and the lengths to which both partners will go to maintain their cooperation. The recovery of bleached corals often depends on the broader reef community, illustrating how individual partnerships are embedded within larger networks of cooperation. Healthy sections of the reef can serve as refuges where algae survive stressful periods, providing sources of recolonization for bleached areas. The complex currents and water movements around reefs help distribute algae from healthy areas to recovering corals, facilitating the restoration of partnerships. Fish communities on coral reefs demonstrate their own complex networks of partnerships and relationships. Schools of fish that move together through the reef provide mutual protection through group vigilance, with many eyes watching for predators and many individuals ready to spread alarm calls when danger is detected. Different species often join these mixed schools, each contributing its own sensory capabilities and defensive strategies to the group's collective security. Herbivorous fish play crucial roles in maintaining the health of coral reef partnerships. Parrotfish, surgeonfish, and other plant eaters constantly graze on the algae that grow on coral surfaces, preventing these competitors from overwhelming the coral's own algal partners. This grazing pressure is so important that reefs without adequate herbivorous fish populations often suffer from algal overgrowth that can smother corals and disrupt the delicate balance of the ecosystem. The relationship between herbivorous fish and the corals they help protect demonstrates how indirect partnerships can be just as important as direct ones. The fish don't interact directly with the coral polyps or their algal symbionts, but their feeding activities create conditions that allow the coral partnerships to flourish. In return, the corals provide the fish with shelter, nursery areas for their young, and a constant supply of the algae they depend upon for food. Territorial fish species often establish cleaning stations within their territories, creating safe zones where cleaners can work without fear of predation. The territorial fish benefit by having access to cleaning services within their own domains, while the cleaners benefit from protection and a guaranteed workspace. These relationships demonstrate how territorial behavior, often seen as competitive, can actually facilitate cooperation when it creates stable conditions that benefit multiple species. The reef's role as a nursery for many marine species illustrates another level of partnership between the reef community and the broader ocean ecosystem. Many fish species that spend their adult lives in the open ocean return to coral reefs to reproduce, relying on the reef's complex structure to provide shelter and food for their vulnerable young. The reef community benefits from the nutrients that these visiting adults bring from the nutrient-rich open ocean, creating a connection between two very different marine environments. Seasonal migrations connect coral reefs to distant ecosystems, with many species serving as living links that transfer energy and nutrients across vast oceanic distances. Sea turtles, for example, may travel thousands of miles between their feeding grounds and the coral reefs where they nest, carrying nutrients from one ecosystem to another and creating connections that span entire ocean basins. The chemical communication networks that operate throughout coral reef ecosystems rival the complexity of any communication system found in nature. Corals, fish, and other reef organisms constantly release chemical signals into the water, creating an invisible network of information exchange that coordinates behavior and maintains the stability of partnerships. Some of these chemicals serve as alarm signals, warning of predators or other dangers. Others facilitate recognition between partners, helping organisms identify potential collaborators and avoid incompatible species. Territorial boundaries on coral reefs are often maintained through chemical marking, with residents releasing compounds that establish their presence and warn potential intruders. These chemical territories can overlap and intersect in complex ways, creating a three-dimensional landscape of scent trails and chemical boundaries that is invisible to human observers but crucial to the reef's inhabitants. The reef's response to disturbances demonstrates the resilience that comes from cooperative relationships. When storms damage coral colonies, the fragments that are broken off often settle in new locations where they can grow into new colonies, effectively reproducing asexually through fragmentation. Other reef organisms quickly colonize these damaged areas, with algae, sponges, and other colonizers helping to stabilize the broken coral surfaces and prevent erosion. The recovery process involves a complex succession of partnerships, with pioneer species preparing the way for the eventual return of mature coral communities. Fast-growing, stress-tolerant corals often serve as the first wave of recolonization, establishing basic partnership networks that can later be expanded by slower-growing but more specialized species. Fish communities also demonstrate remarkable resilience in the face of disturbance, with different species playing specific roles in the recovery process. Some fish serve as gardeners, maintaining algal communities that support the recovery of herbivorous fish populations. Others serve as dispersers, carrying nutrients and energy from undamaged areas to sites that are recovering from disturbance. The deep connections between coral reef partnerships and global ocean processes illustrate how local cooperation can have far-reaching effects. Coral reefs influence ocean chemistry by extracting calcium carbonate from seawater to build their limestone skeletons. This process affects the pH and alkalinity of ocean water, influencing conditions for marine life throughout the world's oceans. The oxygen produced by the photosynthetic algae living within coral tissues contributes to the ocean's oxygen budget, while the coral's consumption of carbon dioxide affects global carbon cycles. These connections mean that the health of coral reef partnerships has implications that extend far beyond the immediate reef environment, affecting ocean conditions and climate patterns around the world. As our exploration of the coral reef draws toward its conclusion, we are struck by the incredible complexity and beauty of the partnerships that sustain this underwater paradise. From the fundamental relationship between coral polyps and their algal symbionts, to the intricate networks of cleaning relationships, territorial agreements, and seasonal partnerships, every aspect of reef life demonstrates the power of cooperation to create abundance and beauty from the simplest raw materials. The reef teaches us that partnerships are most successful when they create conditions that benefit not just the immediate participants, but the broader community as well. The coral algae partnership provides the foundation for an entire ecosystem, while the cleaning relationships, territorial agreements, and other cooperative behaviors create the stable conditions that allow the whole system to flourish. Breaking through the surface of the warm tropical sea, we emerge into a world where the partnerships we discovered beneath the waves find their counterparts in the vast expanses of grasslands and savannas that stretch across entire continents. Here, under the endless dome of the sky, a different but equally fascinating set of relationships unfolds, governed by the rhythms of seasons and the movements of great herds that have wandered these plains for countless millennia. The transition from the intimate, three-dimensional world of the coral reef to the open expanses of the grasslands represents a shift from complexity to apparent simplicity. Yet appearances can be deeply deceiving. What seems at first glance to be empty space punctuated by scattered trees and wandering animals reveals itself, upon closer observation, to be as rich in partnerships and cooperative relationships as any ecosystem on Earth. The golden light of midday sun bathes the savanna in warmth that rises in shimmering waves from the sun-baked earth. A gentle breeze stirs the tall grasses, creating patterns that flow across the landscape like waves upon a terrestrial sea. In the distance, a herd of buffalo moves slowly across the plain, their massive forms dark silhouettes against the pale grass, followed by attendants so faithful and persistent that they seem like shadows given life. These attendants are cattle egrets, elegant white herons, whose partnership with large grazing mammals represents one of nature's most visible examples of commensalism. As the buffalo move through the grassland, their heavy hooves and massive bodies disturb the hidden world that lives among the grass stems and roots. Insects that were safely concealed moments before suddenly find themselves exposed, startled into flight by the approach of tons of moving flesh and bone. The egrets, with their sharp eyes and quick reflexes, capitalize on this disturbance with remarkable efficiency. They position themselves around the moving herd with the precision of practiced dancers, each bird maintaining its optimal distance from the grazing animals while scanning the ground for the insects that the buffalo's movement reveals. When a grasshopper leaps into the air or a beetle scurries across the bare ground, the egrets respond with lightning-fast strikes, their long necks extending like spears to snatch prey from the air or ground. This partnership demonstrates the beauty of opportunistic cooperation, where one species learns to benefit from the natural behaviors of another without requiring any conscious participation from the host. The buffalo, focused entirely on finding and consuming the grasses they need to fuel their massive bodies, remain essentially unaware of their feathered companions. They neither help nor hinder the egret's hunting, but their simple presence and movement create opportunities that the birds could never generate on their own. The relationship extends beyond simple hunting cooperation. The egrets serve as an early warning system for the buffalo herd, their elevated position and keen eyesight allowing them to spot predators or other threats long before the grazing animals become aware of danger. When the egrets suddenly take flight or call an alarm, the buffalo know to be alert, their massive heads rising from the grass to scan the horizon for potential threats. During the heat of the day, the egrets sometimes perch directly on the backs of their hosts, gaining elevated hunting platforms while providing their own inadvertent service as tick and fly removers. Their constant movement across the buffalo's hide disturbs parasites and biting insects, providing relief to their hosts while positioning themselves to catch these disturbed pests. What appears to be simple hitchhiking actually represents a subtle form of mutual benefit that approaches true mutualism. The seasonal migrations of both species create opportunities for partnership that span vast geographic distances. As the buffalo herds follow ancient routes that take them to areas with fresh grass and reliable water sources, the egrets accompany them, gaining access to new hunting territories without the energy expenditure of independent travel. The bird's knowledge of the herd's movement patterns allows them to anticipate and prepare for these journeys, positioning themselves to take maximum advantage of the opportunities that migration provides. High above the grasslands, other forms of commensal relationships play out on an even grander scale. Barnacles, those seemingly simple marine creatures more commonly associated with rocky shores and ship hulls, have formed partnerships with some of the ocean's largest inhabitants. Whale barnacles, specialized for life on the move, attach themselves to the skin of great whales, creating permanent partnerships that can last for the entire lifetime of their hosts. These hitchhiking barnacles transform the whale's massive body into a mobile feeding platform that carries them through rich feeding grounds across entire ocean basins. As the whale swims through the water, the barnacles extend their feathery feeding appendages to filter plankton and small organisms from the passing water. The faster the whale swims, the more water flows past the barnacles, increasing their feeding opportunities and demonstrating how the host's natural behaviors directly benefit their passengers. The whale, for its part, seems largely unaffected by its barnacle passengers. The additional weight and drag created by dozens or even hundreds of barnacles is negligible compared to the whale's massive bulk and powerful swimming muscles. The barnacles attach only to the outer skin layers, causing no damage to underlying tissues, and their presence may even provide some protection against other, more harmful parasites that might otherwise colonize the same skin surfaces. Different whale species host different barnacle species, with each type of barnacle specifically adapted to the particular challenges of life on its chosen host. Barnacles that live on fast-swimming whales like blue whales have evolved streamlined shapes that reduce drag, while those that live on slower-moving species may have more elaborate feeding structures that allow them to capture prey more efficiently from the slower-moving water. The relationship between barnacles and their whale hosts illustrates how commensalism can involve complex evolutionary adaptations that benefit the commensal partner while maintaining neutrality for the host. The barnacles have evolved specialized attachment mechanisms that allow them to maintain their grip on smooth, constantly moving surfaces while withstanding the enormous forces generated by high-speed swimming and deep diving. In the shallow waters near shore, another group of hitchhikers has perfected the art of living in association with large marine predators. Remora fish, with their distinctive sucker-like dorsal fins, attach themselves to sharks, rays, and other large fish, gaining transportation and access to food scraps while remaining essentially invisible to their hosts. The remora's sucker disc represents one of evolution's most elegant solutions to the problem of maintaining attachment to a moving host. The disc, formed from a modified dorsal fin, creates a powerful vacuum that can withstand the enormous forces generated by high-speed swimming and sudden direction changes. The remora can release its grip at will to feed on scraps or parasites, then quickly reattach to continue its journey. For the shark or ray, the remora's presence is generally neutral or even slightly beneficial. The remora removes parasites and dead skin from its host, while consuming food scraps that might otherwise attract bacteria or other harmful organisms. Some researchers suggest that the remora may even serve as a living sensory organ, alerting its host to changes in water conditions or the presence of other organisms through its movements and behavior. The relationship between remoras and their hosts demonstrates how commensalism can grade imperceptibly into mutualism, as the benefits to both partners become more apparent. What begins as simple hitchhiking may evolve into a more complex partnership, as both species adapt to maximize the benefits of their association. Back on the African savanna, the relationship between oxpeckers and large herbivores represents a classic example of how the boundaries between commensalism and mutualism can blur as partnerships become more sophisticated. These small, brownish birds spend their entire lives in association with buffalo, giraffes, rhinoceros, and other large mammals, feeding on the ticks, flies, and other parasites that plague their hosts. At first glance, the relationship appears to be clearly mutualistic, with the oxpeckers gaining food while their hosts receive relief from harmful parasites. The birds are so closely associated with their hosts that they seem like living parts of the mammals' bodies, crawling over every accessible surface with the familiarity of long-established partners. They probe into ears, nostrils, and other sensitive areas where parasites like to hide, removing ticks and flies that the mammals cannot reach themselves. The oxpeckers' feeding activities provide measurable benefits to their hosts, reducing parasite loads and the associated risks of disease transmission and blood loss. Large mammals can lose significant amounts of blood to ticks and other parasites, making the removal services provided by oxpeckers potentially life-saving during times of nutritional stress or disease outbreaks. Recent research has revealed that the relationship is more complex than simple mutualism, with the oxpeckers sometimes behaving more like parasites than helpful partners. The birds occasionally feed on their host's blood directly, opening small wounds that they then maintain as convenient feeding sites. They may also warn their hosts of approaching predators, not out of altruism, but because the disturbance interferes with their feeding activities. This complexity illustrates an important principle of symbiotic relationships. Partnerships exist along a continuum rather than in discrete categories, and the balance of costs and benefits can shift depending on environmental conditions, the health of the participants, and the availability of alternative resources. What matters for the persistence of the relationship is not perfect mutualism, but a balance that allows both partners to survive and reproduce successfully over the long term. The oxpecker-herbivore relationship also demonstrates how partnerships can involve multiple species in complex networks of interaction. Different species of oxpeckers specialize in different host species and different types of parasites, creating a division of labor that reduces competition between the birds while providing more comprehensive parasite control for their hosts. Some oxpeckers specialize in removing ticks from hard-to-reach areas, while others focus on flies and other mobile parasites. The seasonal rhythms of the savanna create changing conditions that affect all of these partnerships. During the dry season, when grasses become dormant and insects are less abundant, the cattle egrets must work harder to find food, relying more heavily on their associations with grazing mammals. The buffalo herds, stressed by limited food and water resources, benefit more from the egret's pest removal services and early warning capabilities. During the rainy season, when the grasslands explode with new growth and insect abundance, the partnerships become less essential for survival, but continue to provide benefits that enhance the success of both partners. The egrets can afford to be more selective in their associations, while the buffalo can spread out more widely to take advantage of abundant food resources. These seasonal variations demonstrate the flexibility that characterizes successful long-term partnerships. The most enduring relationships are those that can adapt to changing conditions, providing different types of benefits as environmental conditions shift, while maintaining the fundamental balance that keeps both partners engaged in the association. The migrations that sweep across the grasslands twice each year create opportunities for partnerships to extend across vast geographic scales. As the great herds move between wet and dry season ranges, they carry their commensal partners with them, creating connections between distant ecosystems and allowing the benefits of partnership to flow across entire landscapes. The movement of herds and their attendant partners also facilitates genetic exchange and population mixing that maintains the health and diversity of both host and commensal populations. Cattle egrets from different regions mix and interbreed when their host herds come together at water sources or in particularly rich feeding areas, while the buffalo themselves exchange individuals and genetic material across vast distances. These large-scale movements demonstrate how individual partnerships can aggregate into ecosystem-level phenomena that affect the structure and function of entire landscapes. The pathways worn by migrating herds become highways for other species. The nutrients deposited by the animals fertilize new areas of grassland, and the disturbances created by millions of hooves and countless birds create habitat diversity that benefits countless other species. The grassland partnerships also illustrate how human activities can affect natural relationships in unexpected ways. The introduction of domestic cattle to savanna ecosystems has created new opportunities for species like cattle egrets, which have expanded their ranges and increased their populations by forming associations with livestock as well as native wildlife. These adaptable birds demonstrate how some species can benefit from human modifications to natural systems by extending their partnership strategies to include domestic species. However, other aspects of human activity can disrupt these ancient partnerships. The construction of fences and roads can interfere with migration routes, separating partners and breaking up the landscape-scale movements that have sustained these relationships for millennia. The overgrazing of rangelands can reduce the insect populations that support the egrets, while the elimination of native wildlife removes the hosts that many specialized commensal species depend upon for survival. Conservation efforts in grassland ecosystems increasingly recognize the importance of maintaining not just individual species, but the partnerships and relationships that connect them. Protecting migration corridors, managing grazing pressure, and maintaining habitat diversity all contribute to preserving the complex web of relationships that makes grassland ecosystems function. The study of grassland partnerships has also revealed important principles about the evolution and maintenance of commensal relationships. Many of these partnerships appear to be evolutionarily stable, persisting for millions of years despite changes in climate, habitat, and species composition. This stability suggests that commensalism represents a fundamental strategy for exploiting resources and opportunities that would otherwise be unavailable, providing benefits that are significant enough to maintain the relationship over evolutionary timescales. The success of grassland commensalisms also demonstrates the importance of behavioral flexibility in maintaining partnerships. Species that can adjust their behavior in response to changes in their host's activities, seasonal conditions, and resource availability are more likely to maintain successful long-term associations. The ability to recognize and respond appropriately to partners' signals, needs, and limitations is crucial for preventing commensalism from sliding into parasitism or exploitation. The afternoon heat shimmers across the savanna, As we observe these complex social partnerships that extend beyond simple commensalism into intricate networks of mutual support and shared vigilance. A herd of Thomson's gazelles grazes peacefully alongside zebras and wildebeest, their different feeding preferences reducing competition, while their combined alertness provides superior protection against predators. The gazelles, with their exceptional eyesight and nervous energy, serve as early warning sentinels, while the larger ungulates provide safety in numbers and the intimidating presence that deters smaller predators. These mixed species aggregations demonstrate how partnerships can emerge spontaneously from the simple behavior of seeking safety in numbers, yet evolve into sophisticated systems of mutual support. Different species position themselves strategically within the group, with the most vigilant species often feeding at the edges where they can best detect approaching predators, while less alert species take advantage of the central positions where protection is greatest. The coordination required for these partnerships involves complex communication systems that transcend species boundaries. Alarm calls from one species trigger immediate responses from all group members, regardless of their own species. A zebra's snort of alarm sends gazelles bounding away just as quickly as it alerts other zebras, while a gazelle's sharp bark brings all heads up across the mixed herd. These shared communication protocols demonstrate how partnerships can create common languages that benefit entire communities. The feeding behavior within mixed herds illustrates another dimension of interspecies cooperation. Different ungulate species have evolved feeding strategies that complement rather than compete with each other. Zebras, with their strong teeth and robust digestive systems, often feed on taller, coarser grasses, trampling and opening up areas that become accessible to smaller species with more delicate feeding apparatus. Wildebeest follow the zebras, feeding on the intermediate-length grasses that the zebra's grazing has exposed, while Thomson's gazelles bring up the rear, feeding on the short, tender new growth that emerges after the larger animals have moved through. This succession feeding creates a moving wave of grazing pressure that actually benefits the grassland ecosystem. The sequential feeding by different species prevents overgrazing of any particular plant species, while encouraging the growth and diversity of grass communities. The trampling and fertilization provided by the large herds creates a mosaic of microhabitats that supports a greater diversity of plant species than would exist without the grazing partnerships. As the afternoon sun begins its descent toward the western horizon, painting the grasslands in warm, golden light, we prepare to descend beneath the surface of the earth to explore the hidden partnerships that sustain all terrestrial life. The savanna has shown us how partnerships can operate across vast spatial and temporal scales, connecting individual organisms into networks that span continents and persist across generations. The partnerships we have observed in the grasslands demonstrate that cooperation can emerge from the simplest interactions and evolve into complex systems that create benefits for entire ecosystems. From the intimate relationship between cattle egrets and their grazing partners, to the vast networks of communication and coordination that guide continental migrations, cooperation proves to be a fundamental force that shapes life at every scale. The evening light reveals the grasslands in all their subtle beauty, with countless species going about their daily routines in ways that support and are supported by their partners. The gentle breeze carries the sounds of partnership, the soft lowing of cattle, the sharp calls of alert sentinels, the rustle of grass beneath countless feet, and the distant sounds of water that draws all life together in the ancient rhythms of survival and cooperation. As we prepare to explore the underground world, where partnerships operate in perpetual darkness, we carry with us the understanding that the visible world above ground is sustained entirely by the invisible partnerships that operate beneath our feet. The grasslands float like islands of green life on a vast sea of underground cooperation, their beauty and productivity made possible by partnerships that we are only beginning to understand and appreciate. Part 3. The hidden world and gentle connections. As the golden afternoon light begins to soften across the grasslands, we turn our attention to a world that exists largely beyond our everyday awareness, yet surrounds and supports us with every breath we take. This is the hidden realm beneath our feet, a universe of partnerships and cooperation that spans from the microscopic partnerships within our own bodies to the vast underground networks that connect entire forests across continents. Descending beneath the surface of the earth, we enter a realm of perpetual twilight, where the familiar boundaries between individual organisms blur into webs of cooperation so intimate and extensive that they challenge our very understanding of where one life ends and another begins. Here, in the cool, moist darkness of the soil, some of nature's most ancient and essential partnerships continue their quiet work, sustaining the green world above through relationships that have persisted for hundreds of millions of years. The soil beneath our feet is far from the lifeless dirt that it might appear to be. Each handful of healthy soil contains billions of living organisms, representing thousands of different species engaged in an intricate dance of cooperation and exchange. Bacteria and archaea, the most ancient forms of life on Earth, work alongside fungi, protozoa, nematodes, and countless other microscopic creatures to create the living foundation upon which all terrestrial life depends. At the heart of this underground universe lies one of nature's most widespread and essential partnerships, the relationship between plant roots and mycorrhizal fungi. These fungi, whose name literally means fungus root, form intimate associations with the root systems of nearly 90% of all plant species. The partnership is so fundamental to plant life that many plants literally cannot survive without their fungal partners, and the fungi, in turn, have become so specialized for this lifestyle that they cannot exist independently of their plant hosts. The physical intimacy of this relationship is remarkable to contemplate. The fungal partners produce microscopic threads called hyphae that are finer than the finest human hair, yet stronger than steel cables of equivalent diameter. These hyphal threads penetrate the cell walls of plant roots, creating structures called arbuscules that look like tiny trees growing within the root cells. The name arbuscule comes from the Latin word for little tree, and these structures serve as the trading posts where the fundamental exchange of resources that drives the partnership takes place. Through these arbuscular connections, the fungi provide their plant partners with water and essential nutrients, particularly phosphorus, which is often the limiting factor for plant growth in many soils. The fungal hyphae can extend far beyond the reach of plant roots, exploring volumes of soil that would otherwise remain inaccessible to the plant. A single fungal network can have a total length of hundreds of miles, all contained within a cubic foot of soil, creating an underground internet of remarkable sophistication and reach. In exchange for these vital services, the plants provide their fungal partners with sugars and other organic compounds produced through photosynthesis. These carbon compounds represent the primary currency of the underground economy, flowing from the sun-powered factories in the leaves down through the plant's vascular system to the root cells, where they are traded for the mineral wealth that the fungi extract from the soil. This exchange creates a closed-loop system of remarkable efficiency and sustainability. The fungi cannot photosynthesize and thus depend entirely on their plant partners for carbon compounds, while the plants, though capable of absorbing some nutrients directly through their roots, are vastly more successful when they have fungal partners to extend their reach and enhance their absorption capabilities. The partnership transforms both participants, allowing each to accomplish far more than would be possible alone. The fungal networks that form through these partnerships create underground communication systems that connect not just individual plants, but entire plant communities across vast areas. When a tree is attacked by insects, it can send chemical warning signals through the fungal network, alerting neighboring trees to begin producing defensive compounds before the insects reach them. When a tree is dying, it can transfer its remaining resources through the network to younger trees, ensuring that its investment in the forest community continues even after its own death. These wood-wide webs, as scientists have come to call them, demonstrate cooperation on a scale that rivals our most sophisticated communication networks. The fungi serve as living internet cables, carrying not just nutrients but information across distances that would be impossible for individual root systems to span. Mother trees, the largest and oldest members of forest communities, use these networks to nurture their offspring and support struggling members of their community, creating forest societies based on mutual aid and shared resources. The soil community extends far beyond the plant-fungus partnerships, encompassing countless other relationships that contribute to the health and fertility of terrestrial ecosystems. Nitrogen-fixing bacteria form partnerships with leguminous plants, taking atmospheric nitrogen gas that plants cannot use and converting it into ammonia and other compounds that serve as essential plant nutrients. These bacterial partners live in specialized structures called root nodules, small swellings on the roots that provide protected environments where the bacteria can carry out the energy-intensive process of nitrogen fixation. The partnership between legumes and nitrogen-fixing bacteria represents one of agriculture's most important relationships, allowing plants like soybeans, peas, and clover to thrive in nitrogen-poor soils while actually enriching the soil for future crops. The bacteria receive sugars and other nutrients from their plant hosts, while the plants gain access to a crucial nutrient that would otherwise limit their growth. This partnership has been so successful that it has evolved independently dozens of times, with different groups of plants forming associations with different groups of bacteria. Deep in the soil, other bacteria form partnerships with the roots of non-leguminous plants, providing growth hormones, antibiotics, and other beneficial compounds in exchange for root secretions rich in sugars and amino acids. These plant growth-promoting rhizobacteria create zones of enhanced fertility around plant roots, improving nutrient uptake, disease resistance, and stress tolerance. The plants, in turn, modify their root secretions to attract beneficial bacteria while repelling harmful microorganisms. The decomposer community in soil represents perhaps the most complex partnership network in any ecosystem. Bacteria, fungi, protozoa, nematodes, arthropods, and countless other organisms work together to break down organic matter and recycle nutrients back to living plants. Each group specializes in different aspects of decomposition, with some organisms softening tough materials, others breaking down specific chemical compounds, and still others processing the waste products of the first groups. This decomposer partnership operates through carefully orchestrated succession, with different groups of organisms taking over as decomposition progresses and conditions change. Pioneer bacteria and fungi begin the process of breaking down fresh, organic matter, creating conditions that allow other organisms to join the process. As decomposition proceeds, the chemical composition of the organic matter changes, favoring different groups of organisms that specialize in processing the modified compounds. The partnership approach to decomposition ensures that organic matter is processed efficiently and completely, with each component recycled and made available for reuse by living organisms. Without these cooperative networks, dead organic matter would accumulate faster than it could be processed, eventually overwhelming ecosystems with waste products and preventing the recycling of essential nutrients. Earthworms and other soil animals serve as ecosystem engineers, mixing and aerating soil while processing organic matter through their digestive systems. These animals form partnerships with the microorganisms that live in their guts, relying on bacteria and protozoa to help digest organic matter and extract nutrients. The gut microorganisms, in turn, benefit from the stable environment and steady food supply that their animal hosts provide. The earthworm's passage through soil creates channels that improve water infiltration and root penetration, while mixing organic matter with mineral particles to create fertile soil aggregates. The worm's waste products, called castings, are significantly richer in nutrients than the soil the worm ingested, demonstrating how the partnership between the worm and its gut microorganisms enhances soil fertility. As we venture deeper into the hidden world of soil partnerships, we encounter relationships so intimate that the boundaries between organisms become difficult to define. Lichens, those crusty or leafy growths that colonize rocks, tree bark, and other seemingly inhospitable surfaces, represent partnerships between fungi and photosynthetic organisms that are so complete that they function as single organisms. In the lichen partnership, the fungal component provides structure and protection, creating a framework that can withstand extremes of temperature, drought, and radiation that would quickly kill either partner alone. The fungal tissues absorb and retain moisture from rain and dew, creating a favorable microenvironment for the photosynthetic partner. The photosynthetic component, which may be either algae or cyanobacteria, captures sunlight and carbon dioxide to manufacture sugars that feed the partnership. Lichens can colonize environments that are too harsh for either fungi or algae alone, from Arctic tundra to desert rocks to the polluted surfaces of city buildings. They grow slowly but persistently, gradually breaking down rock surfaces and beginning the process of soil formation that will eventually allow larger plants to establish themselves. Some lichen partnerships have persisted for thousands of years, growing slowly but steadily on the same rock surfaces while empires rise and fall in the world above. The lichen partnership demonstrates how cooperation can enable life to expand into environments that would otherwise remain sterile. By combining the structural capabilities of fungi with the photosynthetic capabilities of algae or bacteria, lichens create biological systems that can extract nutrients from bare rock and survive conditions that challenge the limits of life itself. Moving from the soil surface down into the deeper layers of Earth, we encounter partnerships that operate in permanent darkness, sustained not by sunlight, but by the chemical energy locked in rocks and organic compounds. In the deep subsurface, bacteria and archaea form partnerships that allow them to extract energy from seemingly impossible sources. Hydrogen gas seeping from rocks, methane trapped in sediments, and sulfur compounds dissolved in groundwater. These chemosynthetic partnerships mirror the photosynthetic relationships we see at the surface. But instead of capturing sunlight, they harvest chemical energy from inorganic compounds. Some bacteria specialize in oxidizing hydrogen or methane, while their partners focus on reducing sulfur or nitrogen compounds. Together, they can extract energy from chemical reactions that neither could exploit alone, creating the foundation for entire ecosystems that exist independently of sunlight. The discovery of these deep subsurface partnerships has revolutionized our understanding of the limits of life and the potential for life to exist in seemingly impossible environments. These partnerships may represent some of the most ancient forms of cooperation on Earth, persisting in the deep rocks for billions of years while the surface world above underwent dramatic changes. In the world's most extreme environments, partnerships become even more essential for survival. At hydrothermal vents on the ocean floor, where superheated water rich in toxic chemicals erupts from cracks in the Earth's crust, giant tube worms form partnerships with chemosynthetic bacteria that allow them to thrive in conditions that would instantly kill most surface organisms. These remarkable worms, some growing larger than a human being, have no digestive systems of their own. Instead, they rely entirely on the bacteria that live within specialized organs in their bodies. The worms absorb hydrogen sulfide and other chemicals from the vent water through their blood, transporting these compounds to their bacterial partners. The bacteria use the toxic chemicals as an energy source to manufacture organic compounds that nourish both themselves and their worm hosts. This partnership allows the tube worms to tap into the enormous energy flows of hydrothermal vents, creating oases of life in the deep ocean where no sunlight has ever penetrated. The worms grow rapidly and reach enormous sizes, supported entirely by the chemical energy that their bacterial partners extract from the vent fluids. Other vent animals, including clams, mussels, and fish, depend on similar partnerships with chemosynthetic bacteria, creating entire ecosystems based on cooperation between animals and microorganisms. The partnerships at hydrothermal vents demonstrate how cooperation can enable life to colonize environments that seem utterly hostile to biological processes. By sharing the challenges and combining their capabilities, animals and bacteria together can exploit energy sources that would be useless to either partner alone. These partnerships may provide clues about how life first emerged on Earth and how it might exist on other worlds with different energy sources. Moving from these extreme depths back toward more familiar environments, we encounter partnerships that exist at scales so small that they are invisible to our naked eyes, yet so numerous and important that they shape every aspect of our daily lives. The microbial partnerships that exist within our own bodies represent some of the most intimate and essential cooperative relationships on Earth. Every human body hosts trillions of bacterial partners, collectively weighing several pounds and representing hundreds of different species. These microbial partners live primarily in our digestive systems, but also colonize our skin, mouth, and other body surfaces. Far from being harmful invaders, most of these bacteria are essential partners that contribute to our health and well-being in ways we are only beginning to understand. The bacteria that live in our intestines help digest food components that our own enzymes cannot break down, particularly complex carbohydrates and fiber. They manufacture essential vitamins, including vitamin K and several B vitamins, that we cannot produce ourselves. They compete with harmful bacteria for resources and space, helping to prevent infections and maintaining the healthy balance of our internal ecosystems. These partnerships begin at birth and develop throughout our lives, with the composition of our microbial communities influenced by our diet, environment, and health status. The bacteria adapt to our individual characteristics and needs, while we provide them with a warm, nutrient-rich environment and protection from the harsh conditions of the external world. The partnership extends beyond simple nutrition to include immune system function, with our bacterial partners helping to train our immune systems and regulate inflammatory responses. They produce compounds that influence our mood and behavior, creating connections between our microbial partners and our mental health that scientists are only beginning to explore. Similar partnerships exist in the digestive systems of all animals, each species hosting its own unique community of microbial partners, adapted to its particular diet and lifestyle. Ruminant animals like cattle and deer have evolved specialized stomach chambers that house vast communities of bacteria, protozoa, and fungi that can break down cellulose and other plant compounds that the animals cannot digest themselves. These ruminant partnerships allow grazing animals to thrive on diets of grass and leaves that would provide little nutrition to animals without microbial partners. The microorganisms ferment plant materials, converting cellulose into organic acids that the host animals can absorb and use for energy. The partnership is so effective that ruminants can extract more nutrition from low-quality plant materials than most animals can obtain from high-quality foods. The microbial communities in ruminant stomachs represent some of the most complex and diverse ecosystems on Earth, with hundreds of species of microorganisms interacting in networks of cooperation and competition. Different microbial species specialize in breaking down different plant compounds, while others focus on processing the waste products of the first groups. The result is a highly efficient system that can extract maximum nutrition from almost any plant material. Termites have evolved similar partnerships with microbial communities that specialize in digesting wood and other plant materials high in cellulose. The termite gut houses a diverse community of bacteria, protozoa, and other microorganisms that work together to break down wood particles into compounds that the termite can absorb. Some termite species have taken this partnership even further, cultivating fungal gardens that help process plant materials outside their bodies. Leafcutter ants represent perhaps the most sophisticated example of agricultural partnerships in the insect world. These ants do not eat the leaves they cut, but instead use them as raw materials for cultivating specialized fungi that serve as their primary food source. The ants carefully tend their fungal gardens, providing fresh plant materials, removing competing microorganisms, and maintaining optimal growing conditions. The fungi cultivated by leafcutter ants have become so specialized for this partnership that they can no longer survive without their ant partners. The ants, in turn, depend entirely on their fungal crops for nutrition, creating an obligate mutualism where neither partner can exist without the other. The partnership has been so successful that leafcutter ants have become among the most abundant and ecologically important insects in tropical forests. The ant-fungus partnership extends beyond simple agriculture to include sophisticated pest management strategies. The ants carry bacteria on their bodies that produce antibiotics, which they use to protect their fungal crops from diseases and competing microorganisms. This three-way partnership between ants, fungi, and bacteria demonstrates how cooperation can involve multiple species working together to achieve common goals. In the ocean's depths, other remarkable partnerships showcase the power of cooperation to enable life in challenging environments. The Hawaiian bobtail squid, a creature no larger than a human thumb, forms a partnership with bioluminescent bacteria that allows it to become nearly invisible to predators in the moonlit waters where it hunts. Juvenile squid actively recruit specific bacteria from the surrounding seawater, selecting from millions of different bacterial species to find the particular strain of Vibrio fishery that will serve as their partners. These bacteria colonize a specialized light organ in the squid's body, where they multiply and begin producing the blue-green light that gives the squid its remarkable camouflage ability. The bacteria produce light through a chemical reaction that requires energy and resources that the squid provides in the form of sugars, amino acids, and other nutrients. In return, the bacteria create a light pattern that exactly matches the moonlight filtering down from above, eliminating the squid's shadow and making it nearly invisible to predators looking up from below. This partnership requires precise coordination and control, with the squid regulating the intensity of bacterial light production to match changing light conditions throughout the night. As dawn approaches, the squid expels most of its bacterial partners, retaining only a small population to seed the next night's colony. The expelled bacteria return to the ocean, where they can potentially colonize other young squid, creating a cycle of partnership that connects individual squid across the population. The squid-bacteria partnership illustrates many of the principles that govern successful cooperative relationships. Both partners invest energy and resources in maintaining the relationship. Both receive benefits that significantly enhance their survival and success, and the partnership creates capabilities that neither partner could achieve alone. As twilight descends and we prepare to explore the more complex and sometimes darker aspects of symbiotic relationships, we pause to reflect on the profound interconnectedness that we have discovered in our journey through the hidden world beneath our feet and within our own bodies. From the vast fungal networks that connect entire forests to the microscopic bacteria that help us digest our food, cooperation operates at every scale of life, creating the stable conditions that allow complex ecosystems to flourish. The partnerships we have explored demonstrate that cooperation is not a luxury or an optional strategy, but a fundamental requirement for life in complex environments. No organism, no matter how sophisticated or well-adapted, can provide all the services it needs for survival. The most successful organisms are those that have learned to work with others, to share resources and responsibilities, and to create emergent properties that benefit entire communities. The underground world teaches us that the boundaries between organisms are often arbitrary human constructs that do not reflect biological reality. Life is fundamentally interconnected, with every organism depending on others for essential services, while contributing its own unique capabilities to the larger community. The soil beneath our feet and the microbes within our bodies remind us that we are not separate from nature, but integral parts of a vast web of relationships that connects all living things. As darkness settles over the landscape above, we turn our attention to relationships that are more complex and sometimes more challenging than the mutually beneficial partnerships we have explored so far. Even in the realm of parasitism, where one organism benefits at the expense of another, we will discover that nature's relationships are rarely as simple as they first appear, and that even seemingly harmful relationships often play important roles in maintaining the balance and diversity of life on Earth. The transition from mutualism to parasitism is not always clear-cut, and many relationships exist along a continuum where the balance of costs and benefits can shift depending on environmental conditions, the health of the participants, and the availability of resources. As we explore these more complex relationships, we will discover that even parasitism can contribute to the stability and resilience of natural communities, and that the diversity of life depends as much on conflict as on cooperation. In the gathering dusk, the hidden world continues its quiet work, processing nutrients, communicating information, and maintaining the intricate balance that supports all life above ground. The partnerships we cannot see are often the most essential, creating the foundation upon which all visible life depends. As we prepare to explore the full spectrum of symbiotic relationships, from the most beneficial to the most challenging, we carry with us a deeper appreciation for the complexity and interconnectedness of the living world. The evening air carries the subtle sounds of the soil community going about its business, the nearly inaudible movement of countless tiny creatures, the gentle flow of water and nutrients through underground networks, and the quiet chemical conversations that coordinate the activities of billions of microscopic partners. This is the soundtrack of cooperation, playing continuously beneath our feet, sustaining the world we see with every breath we take and every step we make. In the fading light, we begin to understand that the most profound partnerships are often the most invisible, and that the health of the visible world depends entirely on the cooperation of the hidden world that lies beneath. As we continue our journey through the full spectrum of symbiotic relationships, we carry with us the knowledge that cooperation and partnership form the very foundation of life itself, creating the stable conditions that allow beauty, diversity, and complexity to flourish in our living world. As we venture deeper into the night and deeper into the more complex aspects of symbiotic relationships, we prepare to encounter partnerships that challenge our assumptions about cooperation and conflict, and that reveal the full spectrum of ways that organisms can interact with one another. The journey ahead will show us that even the most challenging relationships often contain elements of cooperation and mutual benefit, and that the diversity and stability of life depend on the full range of interactions between species. The darkness that surrounds us is not empty but filled with the quiet industry of countless partnerships, each one a thread in the vast tapestry of life that connects all living things. In this darkness, we will discover new forms of beauty and new understandings of the complex relationships that sustain our world. The night is not a time of rest, but a time of different activities, different partnerships, and different forms of cooperation that complement and support the more visible activities of the day. As twilight deepens into true darkness, we encounter relationships that exist at the boundary between cooperation and exploitation, where the line between partnership and parasitism becomes beautifully blurred. Even in these more complex relationships, we find evidence of nature's tendency toward balance and mutual accommodation, as species that might initially appear to be harmful often prove to contribute essential services to their hosts and communities. In the gathering dusk, we observe the subtle drama of tick relationships, where tiny arachnids attach themselves to the warm bodies of deer, drawing blood meals that sustain their life cycles while generally causing minimal harm to their hosts. The ticks, no larger than pinheads in their juvenile stages, locate their hosts through sophisticated sensory systems that can detect carbon dioxide, body heat, and chemical signatures from considerable distances. The relationship between ticks and their deer hosts demonstrates how parasitism can approach a sustainable balance over evolutionary time. The most successful tick species are those that have learned restraint, taking only small blood meals that do not significantly compromise their host's health. The deer, for their part, have evolved immune responses and grooming behaviors that help limit tick infestations while tolerating the presence of moderate numbers of these persistent partners. The tick-deer relationship creates opportunities for other species to participate in cleaning mutualisms. Small birds like the tick-eating birds of Africa specialize in removing ticks and other ectoparasites from large mammals, providing relief to their hosts while gaining nutrition from their grooming services. These cleaning relationships demonstrate how apparently harmful parasitic associations can evolve into beneficial partnerships when additional species enter the interaction. In quiet forest pools and slow-moving streams, leeches demonstrate another approach to sustainable blood harvesting. These segmented worms attach themselves to fish, amphibians, and other aquatic animals, using specialized mouthparts to make small incisions and anticoagulant chemicals to keep blood flowing while they feed. The feeding process is slow and methodical, with leeches consuming relatively small volumes of blood over extended periods. The relationship between leeches and their hosts illustrates how parasites can minimize their impact on host health, while maximizing their own survival and reproductive success. Leeches produce powerful anesthetics that prevent their hosts from feeling the attachment, reducing stress and the likelihood that hosts will attempt to remove them. They also produce antibiotics that prevent infection at feeding sites, actually improving wound healing and reducing the overall health impact of their feeding. Medical research has revealed that leech saliva contains dozens of bioactive compounds that have therapeutic properties, including anticoagulants, anti-inflammatories, and pain relievers that are now used in human medicine. The sophisticated biochemistry that leeches have evolved to manage their feeding relationships demonstrates the complexity that can emerge even in apparently simple parasitic associations. The world of brood parasites reveals some of nature's most elaborate strategies for exploiting the parental care behaviors of other species. Cuckoo birds have evolved the remarkable ability to mimic the eggs of their host species so precisely that foster parents cannot distinguish the imposter eggs from their own. The cuckoo chick, when it hatches, often outcompetes or even ejects the host's own offspring, monopolizing parental care for its own survival. This relationship appears devastatingly one-sided, yet closer examination reveals subtle complexities that suggest coevolutionary adjustments on both sides. Some host species have evolved the ability to recognize and reject cuckoo eggs, leading to an evolutionary arms race where cuckoos develop better mimicry, while hosts develop better detection abilities. This ongoing coevolution has produced some of the most precise examples of egg mimicry in the natural world, with cuckoo eggs matching not just the color and size of host eggs, but also their surface texture and patterns. The relationship between cuckoos and their hosts also demonstrates how apparently parasitic relationships can provide unexpected benefits to host species. Cuckoo chicks are often more aggressive at defending nests against predators than the host species' own chicks, sometimes providing protection that benefits surviving host offspring in multi-egg clutches. Some research suggests that the presence of cuckoo chicks may actually improve the overall nesting success of host species in environments with high predation pressure. Parasitic plants represent another fascinating category of organisms that have evolved to exploit the resources of other plants, while sometimes providing unexpected benefits in return. Mistletoe, perhaps the most familiar parasitic plant, sends specialized roots called haustoria into the branches of host trees, tapping into the tree's water and nutrient transport systems to support its own growth and reproduction. The relationship between mistletoe and its hosts illustrates the complex balance that can develop between parasites and their hosts over evolutionary time. While mistletoe does extract resources from host trees and can weaken them under some circumstances, it also provides benefits that may offset some of these costs. Mistletoe produces berries that provide crucial food resources for birds during winter months when other food sources are scarce, and its evergreen foliage provides shelter and nesting sites that benefit various animal species. The presence of mistletoe in forest canopies creates structural diversity that supports a greater variety of animal species than would be present in its absence. Some bird species specialize in nesting in mistletoe clumps, while others depend on mistletoe berries for winter survival. The seeds of mistletoe are dispersed by birds that feed on the berries, creating a three-way relationship between the parasitic plant, its host tree, and the animal species that depend on both. Research has revealed that mistletoe-infected trees often show increased biodiversity in their canopies, supporting more species of insects, birds, and other organisms than uninfected trees. This suggests that the presence of the parasitic plant creates ecological niches and resources that would not exist without it, demonstrating how even apparently harmful relationships can contribute to overall ecosystem diversity and stability. Dodder vines represent an even more extreme form of plant parasitism, producing thread-like stems that wrap around host plants and send haustoria into their tissues to extract water, nutrients, and even genetic material. Dodder vines have lost the ability to photosynthesize and depend entirely on their hosts for energy, creating relationships that appear to be completely one-sided exploitation. Recent research has revealed, however, that dodder vines can serve as communication channels between different plant species, allowing plants to share information about environmental stresses and coordinate their responses to threats. The vines can transfer not just nutrients, but also defensive compounds and warning signals between connected plants, creating networks that may help plant communities respond more effectively to herbivore attacks and other challenges. The microscopic world reveals parasitic relationships of stunning complexity and sophistication. Malaria parasites demonstrate the intricate life cycles that can evolve when organisms specialize in exploiting multiple host species. These single-celled organisms spend different portions of their life cycles in mosquitoes and vertebrate hosts, with each stage adapted to the specific challenges and opportunities presented by its host environment. The relationship between malaria parasites and their hosts illustrates how parasites can manipulate host behavior to enhance their own transmission success. The parasites produce compounds that make infected vertebrate hosts more attractive to mosquitoes, increasing the likelihood of parasite transmission. They also alter the behavior of infected mosquitoes, making them more likely to take multiple blood meals, and thus spread the infection to more hosts. While malaria is clearly harmful to human hosts, research in natural systems suggests that the relationship between malaria parasites and their wild hosts may be more balanced, with hosts and parasites co-evolving toward relationships that allow parasite transmission without causing excessive host mortality. This coevolutionary process demonstrates how even the most virulent parasites face selective pressure to moderate their impact on host survival and reproduction. Viral partnerships reveal another dimension of parasitic relationships, where genetic material from parasites becomes permanently integrated into host genomes. Many organisms carry viral DNA sequences that were acquired through ancient infections, but now serve beneficial functions for their hosts. Some of these viral sequences have been co-opted to serve as regulatory elements that control gene expression, while others provide immunity against related viruses. The relationship between retroviruses and their hosts demonstrates how parasitic relationships can evolve into mutually beneficial partnerships over long time periods. Retroviruses that integrate their genetic material into host genomes without causing immediate harm may persist for many generations, eventually becoming so integrated into host biology that they provide essential functions. Research has revealed that significant portions of many organisms' genomes consist of viral sequences that were acquired through ancient infections. Some of these sequences have been essential for the evolution of new capabilities, including the placental development systems that allowed the evolution of mammalian reproduction. This suggests that parasitic relationships have played crucial roles in driving evolutionary innovation and the development of biological complexity. Fungal parasites demonstrate remarkable abilities to manipulate host behavior in ways that benefit the parasite's reproduction and transmission. The Ophiocordyceps fungi that infect ants produce compounds that alter the ant's behavior, causing them to climb to elevated positions where fungal spores can be dispersed more effectively. The infected ants essentially become vehicles for fungal reproduction, with their behavior completely controlled by their parasitic partners. These zombie-ant relationships illustrate the sophisticated biochemical control systems that can evolve when parasites depend on specific host behaviors for their life cycle completion. The fungi produce precise cocktails of psychoactive compounds that override the ant's normal behavioral programs, and replace them with behaviors that serve the fungal reproductive strategy. While the individual ants that become infected clearly suffer from this relationship, research suggests that the presence of these parasitic fungi may benefit ant colonies at the population level. The fungi help regulate ant population density and may remove diseased or genetically inferior individuals from the population, potentially improving the overall health and genetic quality of ant colonies. The complexity of these fungal-ant relationships extends beyond simple behavioral manipulation to include sophisticated recognition systems that allow the fungi to identify appropriate host species and physiological states. The fungi must also coordinate their manipulation of host behavior with their own reproductive timing, ensuring that spore release occurs under optimal environmental conditions for dispersal and infection of new hosts. Ocean environments reveal parasitic relationships that operate on scales from the microscopic to the massive. Whale parasites include not just the commensal barnacles we encountered earlier, but also various species of copepods, amphipods, and other arthropods that live on or within whale bodies, extracting nutrients while generally causing minimal harm to their massive hosts. The relationship between whale parasites and their hosts demonstrates how body size can influence the dynamics of parasitic relationships. For organisms as large as whales, the resources extracted by external parasites represent negligible portions of their total energy budgets, making it possible for these relationships to persist without significant costs to the hosts. Some whale parasites have evolved into cleaning relationships that provide benefits to their hosts. Certain copepod species that live on whale skin feed primarily on dead skin cells and other debris, helping to keep the whale's skin healthy while gaining nutrition from materials that would otherwise be wasted. The deep ocean reveals parasitic relationships that operate in some of Earth's most extreme environments. Anglerfish demonstrate one of nature's most extreme examples of sexual parasitism, where tiny male fish permanently attach themselves to much larger females, essentially becoming external reproductive organs that the females carry throughout their lives. This relationship allows both partners to maximize their reproductive success in the vast, sparsely populated deep ocean, where finding mates would otherwise be nearly impossible. The males gain guaranteed access to reproductive opportunities, while the females gain the ability to reproduce whenever conditions are favorable without needing to locate and court mates. The anglerfish relationship demonstrates how environmental challenges can drive the evolution of extreme parasitic strategies that would be impossible in less demanding environments. The permanent fusion between male and female creates a single reproductive unit that can take advantage of rare feeding and breeding opportunities in the nutrient-poor deep ocean. As our exploration of parasitic relationships draws toward its conclusion, we begin to see patterns that reveal the fundamental principles governing these complex interactions. Even the most apparently one-sided relationships often involve subtle reciprocities and mutual adaptations that benefit both partners in unexpected ways. Parasites that cause excessive harm to their hosts face evolutionary pressure to moderate their impact, while hosts that can tolerate moderate levels of parasitism often gain advantages over those that invest too heavily in resistance mechanisms. The transition from parasitism to mutualism represents one of evolution's most remarkable transformations, demonstrating how relationships that begin as exploitation can evolve into cooperation when both partners benefit from maintaining the association. Many of the mutualistic relationships we explored earlier in our journey likely began as parasitic interactions that gradually became more balanced as partners adapted to each other's presence. The evening air grows cooler as we prepare to explore the final dimension of symbiotic relationships, the vast networks of microbial partnerships that operate at scales, both infinitesimally small and globally significant. These microscopic relationships form the invisible foundation that supports all visible life, creating the chemical and biological conditions that make complex ecosystems possible. As the night reaches its deepest point and stars begin to emerge in the clear sky above, we are reminded that the partnerships we have explored on Earth are part of an even larger pattern of cooperation and interconnection that extends throughout the universe. The elements that make up our bodies were forged in the nuclear fires of ancient stars, and the energy that powers all life on Earth flows from our partnership with the Sun. The carbon atoms that form the backbone of every organic molecule have cycled through countless organisms over billions of years, connecting us to every form of life that has ever existed on our planet. The oxygen we breathe was produced by photosynthetic partnerships between plants and their cellular symbionts, while the nitrogen in our DNA was fixed from the atmosphere by bacterial partners working in cooperation with their plant hosts. The water that flows through our bodies and sustains all life on Earth connects us to the vast hydrological cycle that links every ecosystem on the planet. The rain that falls in our forest clearing may have evaporated from tropical oceans, transpired from Amazon rainforests, or melted from polar ice caps, carrying with it the chemical signatures of partnerships operating in distant ecosystems. These global connections remind us that local partnerships are embedded within larger networks that span continents and influence planetary processes. The health of the partnerships in our own communities affects and is affected by relationships operating at every scale, from the microbial to the global. The study of symbiotic relationships has revealed that cooperation is not a luxury or an afterthought in evolution, but a fundamental driving force that has shaped the history of life on Earth. The major transitions in evolution, from the origin of complex cells to the development of multicellular organisms to the emergence of social species, have all been driven by the evolution of increasingly sophisticated forms of cooperation and partnership. This understanding has profound implications for how we approach the challenges facing our own species and our planet. The environmental problems that threaten the stability of Earth's ecosystems are fundamentally problems of disrupted partnerships and broken connections between species and communities that have evolved to work together. Climate change disrupts the timing and coordination that many partnerships require to function effectively. Pollution breaks the chemical communication systems that allow partners to recognize and cooperate with each other. Habitat fragmentation separates partners and prevents the movement of organisms that is essential for maintaining genetic diversity and ecosystem health. The solutions to these challenges must be based on understanding and supporting the partnership networks that sustain natural systems. Rather than trying to manage individual species in isolation, we need to focus on maintaining the relationships and connections that allow entire communities to function effectively. Conservation efforts that protect migration corridors, maintain habitat connectivity, and preserve the diversity of interactions between species are more likely to succeed in the long term than approaches that focus on individual species without considering their partnership networks. Restoration projects that re-establish entire communities of partners are more effective than attempts to restore single species without their necessary allies. As our journey through the world of symbiotic relationships draws to its close, we find ourselves back where we began, in the peaceful forest clearing where we first encountered the profound truth of interconnection. But we return with new eyes, able to see the countless partnerships that make this place possible, and to understand our own role as participants in rather than observers of the great web of life. The gentle sounds of the night forest surround us with reminders of partnerships at work. The soft movement of soil organisms processing nutrients, the quiet activity of nocturnal pollinators visiting flowers, the subtle chemical communications between trees and their fungal allies. This is the soundtrack of cooperation, playing continuously in the background of our lives, whether we notice it or not. The stars above us shine with the same light that powers the photosynthetic partnerships that produce the oxygen we breathe and the food we eat. The moon's gravitational pull that creates ocean tides also influences the timing of countless biological partnerships, from coral spawning events to the emergence of mayflies from streams. In this moment of quiet reflection, we understand that every breath we take connects us to partnerships operating at every scale of life. The oxygen enters our lungs and is transported to our cells by partnerships with hemoglobin molecules that evolved billions of years ago. It is used by mitochondrial partners within our cells to extract energy from food molecules that were created by photosynthetic partnerships in plants. The carbon dioxide we exhale becomes raw material for photosynthesis in the plants around us, completing cycles of partnership and exchange that connect us to every other living thing on Earth. We are not separate from the web of life, but integral threads in the vast tapestry of relationships that sustains our living planet. As dawn approaches, and our night-long journey through the world of symbiotic relationships draws to its natural conclusion, we rest in the profound peace that comes from understanding our place in the larger community of life. We are not alone but surrounded by partners, supported by ancient relationships, and connected through invisible threads to every other living thing on Earth. The approaching dawn brings with it the promise of new partnerships forming, existing relationships deepening, and the eternal dance of cooperation continuing in countless forms across our living planet. In this gentle light, we understand that every day offers opportunities to strengthen our own partnerships, to support the relationships that sustain our communities, and to participate more consciously in the great collaborative experiment that we call life on Earth. Listen carefully to the Earth breathing around us, and you will hear the soft whisper of symbiotic stories unfolding in the darkness, each one a reminder that in the grand tapestry of existence, no thread stands alone, and every partnership adds strength and beauty to the magnificent whole that connects us all.